Oh, is it on me? Oh, I'll high five all day. Huh? Where did everybody go? Oh, good. At least I can't see your faces if I'm boring you to death, so makes me feel better. How's everybody doing? Good. Are you for real good? Yeah. Or is it Sunday morning? That's what we say. We've been trained and conditioned. God is good, right? Where's that drummer at? Hey, where are you sneaking off to? Can I borrow you? Want me to hold your coffee? Want me to hold your coffee? Oh, you didn't leave any in there. I don't need it now. No, I'm good. I'm real good. I need to borrow you for real, though. Are you a for real drummer? Okay. All right. Y'all stand up with me. Why don't y'all get out of y'all's chairs from can I make you real uncomfortable? I'm not going to make you dance. Like I'll pick some of you out to dance, but not everybody will dance. But y'all come up front. Y'all come up front. Y'all come on up here. If you don't come up here, I'll come get you. Just kidding. Y'all come on up here. There's something about church that we lose if we're not real careful. It's called community. We can come to church every week, be in the same building. I can't do this the whole time either, but I'm going to have to get adjusted to this thing. But we can come to church every week together. What happened? Jason Shaw? You don't really have to dim. I just got to get used to it, I think. I just hope I don't walk off the stage while I'm talking. Oh, thank you, brother. You have the ministry of catching gifts. Is that what you do? Okay. Oh, good. All right. I'll just get a piggyback ride and we can walk around out there. There's something about church, though, that's really easy for us to come together every single week and only get to know one or two people. And these are people that potentially you're going to spend all of eternity with if you've given your life to Christ. And you're not going to meet them till heaven. I mean, heaven's a time of rejoicing. We got to go tackle Jesus, tell him thank you for everything that he did. Man, it's awesome. I can't believe you really saved me. That's crazy. What were you thinking? You must not really see everything like they said. But then we're going to spend a bunch of time get to know people that we were with every week. But there's something, let me tell you something real quick, because I'm very weird. I never know what's going to happen. Like, sometimes I come prepared, sometimes I can just show up and God does whatever he does. So we're going to get to something somewhere today and then we're going to go home. That's the plan. But I kind of teach and I preach and we might sing. We just go with whatever, right? Is that cool with everybody? Okay, good. Because I'm not real good at routines. I kind of suck at them. What happened? Oh, well, when the church started, do you realize that they were in caves like 30 feet below the ground? Because Christ has just died. Now Christians all have a bullseye on their back. Romans are coming to kill them. Everybody's wanting to come kill them. Pharisees included. The church people are going to kill Christians. Did they meet down there to hide out of fear of their life? No, but they had to have a place where they could come together and start sharing with each other's faith and what God did in their lives the previous week to encourage the next one. So they'd have these caves that are 30 feet underground. And if they were lucky, a candle would stay lit. Depends on how much oxygen was even down that far in that cave. But to go to church is so funny, man. I had a friend tell me last week, I'm looking for a church. There's nothing really close to me. Like the closest one is like 4 or 5 miles away. I was like, whoa. Oh my gosh. Did somebody tell you had to walk? Or what? But I'd done a couple of events the last couple of weeks, and somebody said that at the dinner table, like, yeah, I'm looking for a home church. I'm really trying to find something close. The closest one's like 4 miles away, and I almost fell out of my chair. Like, oh my, wow. If God was moving at a church, I would drive an hour, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. And some of y'all that know me, I do prison ministry. And there are prisons that are 30 minutes from where I live, and I drive 6 hours to go to the prison that I go to because God is moving in a crazy cool way there. Does that mean God's not in these other ones? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm invested there, and I'll tell you some more about that, why I was actually locked up at that prison. So my heart is there. God saved me at that place. But anyway, so people would meet 30 feet below the ground just for the opportunity to get to know you and share with you what God did in my life this week, and then I want to hear what God did in your life. And whenever you share those transfer of testimonies, all of a sudden, there's a bond that's connected there. And then somebody else comes into the group, and somebody else comes into the group, and then instead of changing from a small church to a big church, you went from a small cave to a bigger cave. People say that the Christians were scared and hiding for their life. They weren't afraid. These people were willing to give up their life. Coming out of that church, they knew that they could lose their life. But they had to have a way to come together to have church so that they could feed off of each other's encouragement. Does that make sense? So when we come to church now in the free world, we can pick them like we can our coffee. There's one on every corner. We go where we want to. And we come because it's Sunday, because it's Wednesday and all that good stuff. But we never get invested with the people that we're going to war with. Y'all said y'all had an amazing worship service last week. Right? Pretty awesome. Have you ever looked at worship like war? Because if you'll read, I say this almost everywhere I go, so I feel sorry for the people that kind of follow me around here and be preached, but it's that important to me that people understand what worship is. Read the Old Testament. Every single time that they were called to war and God was in it, and they would ask God, are you calling us to war? Because they're asking God because they're severely outnumbered. It might be 300 of us versus 10,000 of them. God, do you really want us to go to war? I mean, you do. You're good at math, right? Like you invented it, I think. 300 versus 10,000, you really want us to go? Yeah, go. All right, what's the game plan? Send the worshipers first. They didn't send out the army, they didn't send out the military, didn't send out the Marine Corps, didn't send out the Air Force. They sent the little dude with a flute. And a harp. He's the front lines. Don't you feel safe now? He's about 8 years old and he plays the flute. Man's man. You go first. Sounded like they were trying to sacrifice him. If he makes it, you know. But it wasn't the point. The point was worship. And every time, mark my words, do the research, every time that the Israelites went to war and the worshipers went first, they won every single war, no matter what the numbers were. But then you have kings like Saul who were like, hey, this time there's 10,000 of us, and there's only 1,000 of them. We got this. God, watch what we learn. Watch what we learn. And they set God to the side and they set worshipers to the side and they go in there and they get slaughtered. Because the worshipers didn't lead. God's way is always, if you want to win the victory, you worship your way to victory. You don't have to figure out the plan. You don't have to get on Facebook and whine and cry about how bad life has gotten and, hey, I need somebody to pray for me and send me a hug and a kiss emoji and help me out. God's like, you want to fix this? Let's worship. What's the answer every single time, no matter what you're going through? Worship. The Bible should have been one sentence, and therefore God created worship. Do it. Worship is the answer every single time. Every single time. Doesn't matter what the sermon is, whatever you're going through. The other thing about church I'm going to share before we get into this is church was never designed for you to invite all your lost friends to come here and get saved. Church was never designed for the pastor to do all the work. Church was designed like the caves. All you Christian saved people, come to church. And now take the pretty church and the steeple out of your mind and replace that with the tool shed in your mind. If you can see the church as a tool shed, it's a place for safe. Am I telling you don't bring your lost friends? No. I don't want you to lose the design, the purpose of church. The design of church was for you saved Christian people. You come to church and the pastor's job was to give out tools. So you accept them, you learn them, you go out there and you save the lost. Church is all jacked up. Almost every one of them you go to. We're a community that does not commune with one another. We don't know each other. And we're in the same battle together. We don't know the importance of worship. So that means we're not very good at fighting, right? Anybody feel defeated all the time? Tell me about your worship life. Am I here picking on you and making you feel it? No. I'm trying to inform. I'm doing my job. I'm giving tools. There's nothing worse than to get up here and tell you, hey, this is going to be a good day just because I said so. This is going to be your greatest day. Today's a good day. If you say it enough, it'll be a good day. And then you go out there and somebody gets hit by a car. Was it still a good day? You leave here and you get the phone call. Mom's in the hospital. Dad's in the hospital. Somebody had a heart attack. Somebody's got cancer. Is it still a good day just because you woke up and said you're going to be a positive speaker and say it's a good day? Sometimes life sucks. If you have no tools, how do you face life when life sucks? My job, the pastor's jobs in this church, is to give out tools to Christians to learn how to fight themselves, and then you go out there and you teach people how to fight. Make sense? God is good. You want to learn a new song? Say yes, because you're going to. Say yes. Yes. All right, good. Thank you. All right. I like what you said. Y'all sing with me because it makes me feel better. That was the most honest thing I've heard in church in a long time. It's supposed to be let's worship because we're supposed to worship God, but that was just so real, man. Yeah, y'all worship because it's going to make me feel good. All right. Y'all ready? You'll have to pick me up here in a second. Did you go to sleep? You good? You ready? I know it. You better not be. I'll come back there. All right. Repeat after me. God is a good God. He's the same. He don't ever change. God is a good God. And I'll forever praise His name. One more time so you get it in your head. God is a good God. He's the same. He don't ever change. God is a good God. And I'll forever praise His name. That's the chorus. I'll do the verses. You're going to see if we can pick it up. God is a good God. He's the same. He don't ever change. God is a good God, and I'll forever praise His name. I keep on telling you that God is a good God. He's the same. He don't ever change. God is a good God, and I'll forever praise His name. I keep on telling you that God is a good God. He's the same, He don't ever change. God is a good God, and I'll forever praise His name. Well, He's the Alpha, and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And He saved my soul from a burning hell, and I'll forever praise His name. I keep on telling you that God is a good God. He's the same, He don't ever change. God is a good God, and I'll forever praise His name. Well, you can call Him in the morning, and you can call Him late at night. For my God's the same, He don't ever change, and I'll forever praise His name. I keep on telling you that God is a good God. He's the same, He don't ever change. God is a good God, and I'll forever praise His name. I keep on telling you that God is a good God. He's the same, He don't ever change. God is a good God, and I'll forever praise His name. All right, good job, brother. Thank you, man. Oh, y'all may be seated. Y'all may be seated. Yeah, you can sit down. Yeah, I think I'm going to let you make it. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, I'll take some. Huh? No, I don't know. What's water? Put water in my coffee. Amen. Everybody feel good? I want to share a little bit of my story with you. It's way too long to tell you everything. I'm going to hit some highlights, and then I'm going to kind of implement some stuff that the Word teaches, man, that goes along with some of my story. But how many of you were in this area back in July 2001? Nobody? Where y'all from? Just a few people? All right. Hey, my wife was. Hey, there's one cameraman. It's going to be good footage if I keep doing this, isn't it? It's good? All right. In 2001, I'm living down here in Myrtle Springs. And this is where all this story happens. For some of you, some of this might start sounding familiar for anybody that was in that area. But growing up as a kid, it was just me and my brother. We're about 3 years apart. He's always he was always 3 years older, but he was always like 80 to, yeah, the whole time he was 3 years older. I don't know how that happened. Like, he never would get younger with me. It was unfair. So, but he was always like 80 pounds, 100 pounds heavy. You knew my brother, didn't you, Katrina? Yeah, you met my brother. So, anyway, we're going up together. Oh, man, you're awesome, man. I think I just got saved, brother. Yeah, we're going to have fun, I think. So we're growing up. We were pretty much polar opposites, anybody that knew us, and he was pretty mean. Like, my hobbies were soccer and hunting and stuff like that. His hobbies were beating me up pretty much every day. So, yeah, his name was David. I called him Satan. But anyway, we had it real rough growing up, just between him and I. Lots of crazy stuff happening. Just him and I never could really click and mesh. So as I'm growing up, lots of crazy stuff happens, man. When I was in about the 5th grade, my mom and dad were having some problems. My mom tried to kill herself when I was about 5th grade. Took a bunch of pills. Just a really crazy time for me in about the 5th grade. Thank God, God spared my mom. They survived, and then right after that, we had this conversation about divorce. And my brother and I are going to have to decide which one of our parents we're going to live with. That's a really hard decision to make when we were a kid. And then we finally invited them to, we've been inviting them to come to church almost every week, and they finally decided to come one Sunday. And God did what he did, and that Sunday they both get saved at church. Things very drastically changed. Like, my parents went from not saved to like super saved and strict, and I was like, man, can we just go back a few steps? Just like, this is what, y'all are overdoing it. But it was, no, really, it was really good. God was really awesome. So me and my brother continued to fight growing up, and when I was about 14 years old, they come and they tell me, like, hey, your brother is going to go away to the Marine Corps. He's going to be gone for 4 years, boot camp, things like that. You're not going to see him very much over the next 4 years. So most people, like in a good, healthy relationship, when they come tell you, hey, your brother's going to be gone for 4 years, they're like, oh my gosh, 4 years is a long time. I'm going to miss him. Can we write? Can I go see him? Is anything? Shireen, how are you? When did you sneak in? Oh, okay. You just, the lights, I'm telling you, you can't see nothing. So anyway, they tell me my brother's going to be gone for 4 years, and you should be sad and all that stuff. So they tell my little 14-year-old ears that your brother's going to be gone for 4 years. I'm like, oh crap, that's not very long. I better get ready because he's coming back. 4 years is going to fly by. So then I get really, really interested in martial arts and fighting and things like that. I've got 2 cousins that fight. I get into Taekwondo myself, and I just start really engaging in this, and that's kind of the reputation I built from there, was really loving how to fight. So I graduate. I was a pretty good kid in school. Unless you ask Katrina or Shireen, they'll tell you the truth. But I was a pretty good kid in school, you know, A honor roll in school. I was in the band. I did sports, all that good stuff. Went to college after we graduated. I was working here at the Tractor Supply here in town, just doing really good. Like, outside looking in, life looks pretty good. It's nothing crazy, you know, there's not drugs and all that type of stuff going on in my life. So the Canton, with all the fun stuff there is to do here, nothing. About 6 months before I got into trouble, I was just about getting ready to turn 21, and I met a different group of guys up here at the park. There was nothing really going on in Canton back then. We had a movie theater way back in the day, and then they shut that down, and all we had left was Walmart. That was 24 hours a day. And there's only so much fun you can have at Walmart before they kick you out. So I don't even know why we went, but me and a friend of mine, we go up to the park here in Canton, the old city park. So we go up there to the park one afternoon, and there's lots of people out there, and we meet this group of guys, and one of them was actually a guy that I went to high school with. We kind of ran in different groups, but I still knew him. I knew him pretty well. So him and his cousin are there at the park. We meet them, and we all kind of hit it off right off the bat, and we start talking, and they tell us that, hey, every night here we come up here and we play volleyball. There's like 40, 50, 75 of us that come up and play volleyball. We just chill till like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we go home. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So we went up there that night. Man, had a blast. We played volleyball. I think we swam in the lake, all kinds of crazy stuff. But it was fun being 20, 21 years old. There's nothing else to do in town. So we do that. And me and this group of guys begin to get extremely close. Like, they're at my house every weekend. Then it just kind of flourished from there. We're drinking all the time. They're coming to my house to drink. We're drinking at somebody else's house. Just always partying. These guys would tell me pretty much that all they would really give me was that they would go out, because I always picked on them. They always had money, but they never went to work. And I was like, I don't know how you do that, because I go to work all the time and never have money. So they were like, oh, all we do is ride around with this guy, and he pays us like $500. We're only go riding around for 2 hours. I was like, well, I've never been real dumb, so I don't know what you're doing in that 2 hours, but you're doing something, right? They never would really just come out. As time goes, I learned that they're selling some weed, collecting some money for weed. So they'd slowly try to ask if I would want to come and work with them, right? And I would turn them down several times. So we're having this huge party July the 13th. We're having this huge, huge party back in 2001 at my house. 2 of my friends are already there. 2 of these other guys show up, and they ask if they can come in and party with us. I'm like, sure, that's fine. And they're like, we just want to talk to these other 2 guys first. And I said, that's fine, y'all can use the back bedroom. So they come in, and all 4 of these guys go off to the back. And then one of my friends that I met at the park just months earlier comes up and he goes, hey, Jason, we're going to go down to the park and we're going to talk about these 2 jobs. One of them pays $2,000, one of them pays $10,000. If you're interested, you can get down with us. If you're not interested, we'll never bug you again. And I said, no, I'm not really interested. We're having this party. I'm not going to leave the party to go talk about this stuff. So they leave, or he leaves. Then he comes back with the guy that I went to school with. And they come up, and now he's talking kind of the same spiel. Hey, we're going to go to the park, talk about 2 jobs. One pays $2,000, one pays $10,000. And I turn them down again. The third time, all 4 of them come out. So all 4 guys come out, they're talking to me about, they're like, hey, we're just going to go to the park. It's right down the road. We'll talk about these 2 jobs. If you're interested, you can get down with us. If not, we'll never bring it up again. Just out of pure frustration, I said, fine, let's just go. We'll go to the park, talk about whatever, we'll come right back. So we tell everybody at the party we're leaving. We're going to the park and we'll be right back. We go and we get in this guy's truck. Me and one of my friends are in the back. The other 3 guys are riding up front. We take off riding. Him and I are talking, having a casual conversation, and we pass the park almost immediately. So I asked him, hey, where are we going? We already passed the park. So he knocks on the back glass. They open it up. And he says, hey, we passed the park where we're going. And the driver told him he needed to shut up and sit down. He'll know when we get there. So he sits down. We make it all the way to Ben Wheeler, start taking a whole bunch of back roads. We end up, I know Ben Wheeler. I've been out there lots and lots of times. We take so many back roads, I couldn't even take you there today. Like, I don't even still know where that was at. I haven't been back out there since all this happened. So we come up on this pasture about 11 o'clock at night. When the headlights hit it, you can see, like if this is y'all's view here, you could see a barn facing this way, another barn facing this way, and it kind of opened up to some woods and a pasture there, and there's this creek kind of flowing through the middle of it. So we pull in and we park. My buddy gets out of the truck first. As I'm stepping over the tailgate to get out of here, my buddy say, hey, what's that for? And when I look up, the driver is pulling the shotgun out of the truck. So he pulls the shotgun out and he tells them, hey, this is just for protection. Y'all know there's hogs out here. And one of these guys had been attacked by a hog, I guess, the year before. So everybody kind of let their guard down. They're like, okay, yeah, you're right, whatever. And so everything went just like they said. The guy's holding the gun. He's not pointing at anybody. They set me and one of my martial arts buddies off to the right. And then the other 2 guys, he sits them off to the left, and he tells us about these 2 jobs. Some guy in Edgewood owes him a bunch of money. He wants somebody to go collect that money, beat this guy up. That job pays $2,000. And then he said there's a guy in Athens that messed him over really bad. He's got a gun and an address. Whoever wants to kill this guy, he's going to pay him $10,000. Before I can even really soak that all in, a guy that I call one of my best friends spoke up and said, shoot, give me the gun, give me the address, I'll do it. This is a guy that I'm like real cool with. like he's at my house all the time. Now I was over talking about killing somebody. I'm like, what the heck? So as soon as he speaks up on it, the guy with the gun says, okay, if y'all are going to do that, I need to talk to y'all in private. So he takes them off far enough where I can't see them or can't hear them, and I'm talking to my martial arts buddy like, dude, y'all are tripping, man. He's like, man, don't even worry about it. This is what we do. We'll get out of here in a minute. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So they come back from talking. He just tells us, if y'all are interested in that job in Edgewood, let me know. If you're not, we won't bring it up anymore. Let's go back to the house and party like we never had a serious conversation. We make it all the way back up to the truck, and we're all fixing to get in the truck, and then everything starts changing. The guy with the gun tells them, says, hey, I just bought this brand new gun today. I don't want to leave until I shoot it. And everybody's first response is, man, it's dark out here. It's 11 o'clock at night. You can't see your hand in front of your face. We're not going to shoot this gun. Let's go. The more they told him no, the angrier and the angrier that he got. And so he finally convinced them that he was not leaving until he shot this gun. Everybody in this scenario is first cousins except for me and my martial arts buddy. His first cousins tell him, okay, fine. We're going to walk in front of you till we get to this pasture. If we see anything, we'll get out of the way and you can shoot. And they all turn around and start heading in that direction. And I'm looking at my martial arts buddy like, dude, these dudes are tripping. He's like, let's just stay back. So we stay back. They walk a few more feet up there. And then I was talking to the martial arts buddy of mine, and then I heard the guy with the gun say, hey, do y'all see any hogs? And whenever he said that, I looked up in his direction. When I looked up in his direction, the gun started going off. Boom, boom, boom. And the guy that I went to high school with falls forward. Boom, boom, boom. One of my best friends falls forward. I'm not thinking about a shotgun. If it's got a plug in it, it only holds 5. If it doesn't have a plug, it'll hold 6. I'm not thinking about all that. All I'm thinking is he shot to the right, shot to the left, and I'm next to the left. I turn around, I take off running. I hit this creek bed. I come out of the creek bed. As I'm coming over the creek bed back on flat ground, I get hit from behind, and I thought I got hit on accident, and it's my martial arts buddy. So when I roll over, he helps me up. When he helps me up and I get to my feet, though, he pushes me. They call it big chest. Boom. He big chests me into the truck. When I come off the truck, the guy with the gun had already made it back up there to us, and he put the gun right up against my mouth. Where do you think you're going? So at that time, I probably knew in martial arts about 6 different ways to take a weapon away from somebody, and not one of them crossed my mind. Not one of them. The only clear thought that I had in that moment is, this is how I'm fixing to go. Like he's fixing, that's a reality check. You can't even express that or explain that to somebody that hadn't been in that situation. I can't even replicate that feeling today of how crazy. I'm not scared of very much at all in my life, pretty much spiders. Outside of that, I'm good. If there was a spider on that gun, I'd have told him to shoot me. That's how bad it is. But I'm talking about scared, like scared. This is how I'm fixing to go. This dude's fixing to shoot me right here, right now. This is crazy. And it's all happening so fast, you can't even think just real clear. And then my martial arts buddy grabs the gun, takes it off my face, and he tells him, like, hey, man, just calm down. Calm down. You scared him. He's like, no. The dude took off running. So anyway, they're fighting. They're battling back and forth whether they're going to shoot me or not. And so finally, the guy that originally started doing all this shooting finally says, okay, here's the deal. He can either stay here with them, meaning they're going to shoot me, and I can stay here with the other 2 guys that got shot. Or he can go back, he can leave with us and go back out there and finish off these guys. Because neither one of them are dead. So then they're debating how they're going to do that, and he tells my martial arts buddy, you just follow him out there, and if he doesn't shoot, you shoot him in the back. If he does shoot, we'll get out of here. So I'm still out of there, in like shock, whatever you want to call it. So they try to give me the gun, and they don't even have enough sense to get it because, hindsight, you'll just beat yourself up. Satan will just have a field day with you. Hindsight, what you could have done, should have done, because now you're like, why didn't you just take the gun and shoot both of them? And all this cool stuff that never crosses your mind in the moment. And so they try to give me the gun, and I don't even have enough sense to grab it, so they cradle it in my arms like this. I'm cradling the shotgun like this. And then they come between my arms, and they reload the shotgun. Then I can't move. So my martial arts buddy grabs me by the arm, and he takes off walking in the direction the 2 guys just got shot. So we're walking along, and I remember looking back at the truck to see if that guy was staying or if he was coming with us, and he stayed at the truck. So we get just enough out of earshot. And I'm still cradling the gun, and I asked my friend from martial arts. We probably had about 3 years of martial arts together. I mean, we know each other well. So I asked him, I was like, man, are you for real? Are we really fixing to do this? Are you going to make me do this? And this guy just as cold and clear as he could say, this is what we do. Don't make me do what he said. This guy is moving in my house a week from this night. His girlfriend's parents can't stand him, so they said, if you want to live with us, you get rid of him. If you want him, then you leave our house. So a week from this night, these 2 are going to come stay in my 3rd bedroom. That kind of friend. And now a week before this happens, he's walking behind me, has a pistol, no problem shooting me. Your friends. Party together every week, chill every week, help each other out. Going to move you in so you got a place to stay. No problem pulling the trigger. And I was like, are you for real? He goes, don't make me do what he said. And he gets behind me. We're walking out there. The second guy, my buddy that got shot, he thinks he got shot on accident. I can hear him hitting the barn, trying to walk back up towards where we're at. So he's walking back up towards us thinking he got shot on accident. He starts screaming for me. Jason, help me. Jason, I got shot. Jason, help me. And then my martial arts buddy behind me. Do it. Do it. Jason, help me. Do it. I heard him pull the trigger back on the pistol. Jason, help me. And I raised the gun. I shot twice. Boom, boom. After I shot twice, as far as my memory goes, the first real clear thought started coming at that time, almost immediately, as soon as I pulled the trigger the second time. And the first wave of emotion that I could feel was disgust. Like utter disgust. What the heck just happened? Turn around, I take the gun and I throw the shotgun at my martial arts buddy. Told him, do whatever the heck it is you want to do. So he takes the gun, he reloads the gun. He ends up having to reload three more times, because he walks around this guy and shoots him 18 more times. Tell him, how does that feel? How do you like that? How does that feel? So there was obviously some personal beef between them two guys. I don't even know what it is today. But shoots him 18 more times and finally kills him. Gives me the gun. The guy from the truck comes running back up to where we're at, sees me with the gun. I guess he thought I did all that shooting, so he pats me on the back. Good job, man. I knew you could do it. Takes the gun, reloads it, and gives it to the dude who just did all the shooting and says, let's go find the other guy. So many details to tell you that I don't want to waste a bunch of time going over. We can't find the other guy. So we're going to leave and get alibis and all this crazy stuff. They're still fighting over whether they're going to kill me or not. But the first guy, the first shot hit him in the neck. The second shot hit him in the kneecap. The third one missed him completely. And he bear crawled like 800 yards to a house and called 911. So 911 and them are already coming. Like I said, lots of details. Maybe another time when we have more time, but we end up getting arrested later on that night. They take us to the county jail. I'm waiting to go to my interrogation room. And while I'm waiting, I'm listening in this one room. The guy who put all this stuff together is in there giving a verbal statement that I was the one who's been planning this for the last 6 months. I've known that guy for like 3 weeks. So he's doing a written statement saying that I've been planning this for the last 6 months. I go crazy. I don't know what's going on. I'm thinking that's court. So they send me to my room. A couple of cops that I knew came up to me and said, Jason, just keep your mouth shut till you get an attorney. Don't say anything. Gave me some good advice. For 2 years, my plea bargain was a life sentence. They charged us with capital murder and attempted capital murder, conspiracy to commit capital murder, conspiracy to commit attempted capital murder. First murder case in Canton, Canton in 20 years, first capital murder case ever. So high profile case, everybody's wanting to make a name of this case. I never even spoke to the sheriff. That night we all hit the news. My parents came up to the county jail to figure out what's going on, and the sheriff tells my mom that I admitted to planning and killing these two guys. Never even, so you can imagine the phone call the first time I get mom on the phone. Yeah. And it wasn't even a hateful one. She just could not believe it. She was broken. And I'm like, where are you getting your information from? The sheriff told me that he talked to you. I'm like, what? It was just lie on lie on lie, man. This whole case was terrible. So I was sitting there for 2 years. My plea bargain is a life sentence. That's my plea bargain. Take a life sentence or we'll take you to trial and give you the death penalty. So then one day I'm going to go pick a jury selection. Another friend that was not even there for the first part of all this stuff, while I'm locked up, he catches an aggravated sexual assault of a minor charge. Okay? I think a 14-year-old girl. They find out that. They also find out that he was a roommate of mine at the time that all this happened. So they work a deal with him. He's also on probation for beating his last girlfriend. So they tell him that if he'll sign a statement saying that I was walking around the house 2 weeks before this ever happened, talking about killing these two guys, they would reinstate his probation and they would drop his aggravated sexual assault of a minor. So not only did he sign it, but he did a video confession, and that's what they did to try to scare me into taking my life sentence. So we go in there and they push play, pretty much tell me, we got you. They push play, and I'm watching one of my friends that I grew up with since I was a kid, went to church together, our families went to church together. I'm watching his face. This guy's in my house because I went to a party one night and he was so drunk he couldn't walk. So I put him in my truck, take him to his house. There's no water, no electricity, no nothing. no vehicle. So I put him back in my truck, take him home when he wakes up. I'm going to get you clean, help you get a job, help you get a vehicle, blah, blah, blah. Be a friend. This guy is on video saying, yeah, he was talking about killing these two guys 2 weeks before it ever happened. Another friend. Don't have a problem shooting you in the back. Don't have a problem lying on you for something you didn't do, even though it's fixing to cost you the rest of your life. Getting out of something that he did do. But anyway, friends. So anyway, I ended up doing 31 months in the county jail down here. 2.5 years. One night I'm up at night about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm writing letters home and things like that. And a guard that I was real cool with comes up to me and goes, hey, Cole, come here. Check this out. And it's a letter from the original guy who said that I had planned this thing for 6 months. And he finally recanted his statement saying that he didn't have any prior knowledge of what was happening whenever we went out there that night. So I thought that was going to save my butt real good. So I told her to go make me 10 copies. I kept a copy, sent copies home, sent one to my attorney. Even got Captain Ashlock. I was like, hey, keep a copy of this. And he goes, why do you want me to have a copy? I said, I want you to keep a copy, and I want you to take a copy and give it to the DA, hand deliver it. Because I know when I go to trial, this is my one ticket to maybe having freedom one day, and I just got a feeling it's going to disappear. And if it disappears, I want to be able to put you on the stand and say that you gave it to them. Sure enough, it went down just like that. We go to an evidence hearing. I try to present that. Nobody knows about it. I was like, good. Let's call the captain. So captain's got to come and speak up about this testimony. So anyway, after that, they start working with me. The Judge Drum just comes in. I'm her first case. She's a Christian attorney, thank God. She was a godsend. She didn't like the way my attorney was representing me, so she gave me 2 new attorneys out of Athens. Before I ever met them, before I ever met the attorneys, I got 4 or 5 plea bargains, 35 years, 25 years, 15 years. Turned down the 15, they jumped back up to 35. Like, ooh, should have thought about that. I thought you just kept, if I say no, you keep going down. Oh, they jump back up to, yeah, rewind, where's the rewind button? So we're back up at 35 for a minute, and they're scaring me to death about going to trial and this and that. And my attorneys just were really awesome. And I was like, I just need the realest advice that you have in my situation. What do I do? And they were so honest. They said, look, we went to trials with murder cases where we just knew we had it in the bag, we won it. And that verdict comes back guilty. And we've had cases we felt like we smoked the whole deal. We lost it. Man, we just got this guy sentenced away. And the jury comes back and they're like, not guilty. Like, you just can't tell what's in that jury's mind until they come back. I was like, well, all right, thanks for scaring the crap out of me. That was very helpful. So it let me know. I knew I wasn't going to get away. I knew I wasn't just going to walk away from there because I was there with them when it happened. I left with them. I couldn't prove that I didn't have prior knowledge. I didn't do anything to stop it. I mean, just all this stuff. I knew I was going to get time, and probably the very minimum was going to be about 20 years. But anyway, long story short, they finally come to me one day and they're like, we're not going to give you 10 years or less because you've never been in trouble. You could turn it into probation. If you're going to sign for something, you got to sign for it today or we're going to go to trial. So we ended up working on a deal where I signed for 12 years for manslaughter and 8 years for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, running concurrent. Go to prison. They gave me my back time, so I go to prison. Cass started writing me right about that time. My wife started writing me about that time. We were just become reacquainted as friends. She starts writing me about that time. Go to prison. I waste another. See, I'd already wasted that first 2.5. I'm just worried about what's fixing to happen to me. Am I ever coming home? Am I going to get a life sentence? Are they going to kill me? You know, what's going to go on? Do I really? I'm fixing to go to prison, like for real? On a roll in school and a good kid. Most people would have said I was a good kid. I'm going to prison out of the whole bunch of people we went to school with. I'm going to prison. Man, geez, I wonder what's going to happen to them. So I'll go to prison. I'm so mad at life. I'm so mad at God. And then on top of all that, I've got this disappointment and disgust just, I'm talking about eating my lunch every single day. There's shame like I can't explain that my friends, I hurt my friends. That wasn't supposed to happen in my family, smearing the family name, just being a big letdown from being a kid that had a good future to being this huge letdown. And so in prison, you don't deal with emotions too well. You just turn everything into anger and you fight, which was speaking my language. It didn't help, but it made me get my frustration. Instead of crying in my cell all day, you just go out there and you fight, right? Have you been locked up, brother? Okay. I just figured the way you said yeah. I was like, unless you were just watching all those shows on TV, but they're off. Yeah, that's Hollywood. So anyway, go to prison. I do about 2.5 more years, and I really learned my lesson though, and you can tell because I ran with some dudes that were just not my style, not my speed. They were a bad influence, whatever you want to call it. Hate to be disrespectful, but just we were idiots, right? And I just didn't learn my lesson because then I go to prison and I surround myself with more idiots. And then it sounded like a good idea that I should speak for these idiots because I was the smartest idiot out of the group. So I left some idiots that cost me 12 years in prison. I joined up with some idiots in prison, and then I speak I'm the head idiot because I got the most sense. So anyway, long story short, there's these rules to prison that would take me a lifetime to explain because it's nothing like the world out here, right? Like we kill each other over 25-cent soup, you know? That'll never make sense out here, but by God, you touch my soup and you're going to die. And it makes sense in there for some reason. I'm not sure why. So anyway, one of these rules are, we lived in a really tough dorm when I made it all the way down to Torres unit. We lived in a real tough dorm. Pretty much the speaker for every gang was in there, the Bloods, the Crips, Mexican Mafia, whatever. But it was a good dorm because everybody in there made kind of the decisions for the unit. So that dorm stayed pretty calm for the most part. But in that dorm, another dumb thing about prison is whatever race you are, your race is going to check you to see if you're going to fight, if you're going to, they've got terms that I just cannot use at church. Yeah, what'd you say, a girl? Yeah, if you're a girl, that's a guy. I'm tiptoeing on thin ice right now. Anyway, your race is going to check you to see if you're going to be there for your race if anything crazy happens or whatever. And if not, doesn't matter what race you are, they're not going to let you live there, or unless you got money, then they're just going to take everything that you have every time you go to store. So my job was when somebody white came into our dorm, I had to go ask them, are you a gang member? And if they weren't a gang member, I had to ask them what they call is this wood. They call him a wood. It's a white guy that's going to stay down for himself, fight for himself, but at the same time he's not racist and he's not going to be a family member. Just a whole bunch of politics, man, to save a long story short. And if not, then I got to tell them, okay, if you're not one of those things and you don't want to get down with us, then you can't live here. Because you're a liability. I'm going to be trying to save your life and you won't even fight for yourself. You're going to get me hurt. So if I'm getting my face stomped in, you're not going to help me. You can't live here. So that's my job. So this dude comes walking in that weighs about 95 pounds with curly hair. And I was like, oh, he ain't going to make it. What'd you say? What'd you say? No, oh my God. Yeah, he's been locked up. He's been locked up. He wasn't lying. So this kid comes in and I'm like, oh, he's not going to make it. He can't do time. Why did they send him here? They should have left him in the county. So it's my job, and I'm like, I already know what's going to happen. I'm going to go talk to this dude. He's going to get nervous. He's going to have to leave. It's going to be easy, no big deal. So he goes up to his cell, and I give him a few minutes to get adjusted. And I'm like, all right, let me go ruin his life pretty much. So I go upstairs and say, hey, look out, homeboy. Are you a family member? And he's like, no. I was like, all right. I said, are you a wood? Do you run with the woods or anything? He goes, no, I don't do all that either. I was like, oh, okay. Well, don't even bother unpacking your stuff. Just keep it packed up. Come down here, tell the guards that you're in fear for your life and you need to get out of here. He goes, no, I'm not going to do that either. And I was like, well, you're going to have to, or you're going to be in fear for your life and we're going to beat you up and you got to leave. So this way you leave without getting hurt. You just go tell them you're in fear for your life. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. God puts me where he wants me. I'm like, do what? Do what? And he's like, I'd ride with Jesus and that's it. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, Christianity is not just super popular in prison. Most guys that come and tell you they're a Christian, it's because they wanted to get out of a gang or something to hide behind. Nobody will expect anything at them. So like, oh, I'm a Christian. So certain units, if you're a Christian, people will leave you alone if you're walking it out. If you say you're a Christian and you don't walk it out in prison, you talk about accountability. If you say you're a Christian in prison, yeah, like we see each other on Sunday morning and Wednesday. Live with me 24 hours a day and tell me you're a Christian. Prison is like the best Christian accountability group ever. You can't get away from nobody. Like the one time you mess up, everybody can't wait to believe, I knew you were fake. The one time you mess up, you cuss, you get into a fight with somebody or whatever, everybody can't wait in prison to call a Christian fake. It's hard to be respected as a Christian in prison. So anyway, this kid's like, yeah, I don't do all that. I ride with Jesus and that's it. And I was like, okay, you're one of those. You're one of those Christian guys. Yeah, I'm not really digging all that. So The Christians can't live here either. So he's like, he goes, well, I'll tell you what. He said, if you're just wanting to see if I'll fight you. But I still don't want to get down with you or your homeboys. And I was like, in 5 years, they have always told me that they're going to get down with us or they're going to leave. Like, fighting and not getting down is not in the script. Like, for 5 years, nobody's ever said that, ever. You can't say that. It ain't on the list of things you can reply back to. Yeah, it's not, yeah, it's A or B. You stay or you leave. You don't get to stay and not be a part of the group. Messed me up so bad I had to go sit down and think about it for a minute. In 5 years, nobody's ever told me, I'm going to fight you and I still don't want to hang out with you. I'll be right back. So I go sit down. I go sit down on the bench and I'm like, what am I going to do with this kid? So then and it's in my head, my guy brain is like, I could smash this kid. I mean, he's so little. You know, he's tender. I wouldn't even get any brownie points for beating him up. You know what I mean? So I'm sitting there like, man, what am I going to do? So my homeboys all come up. They're like, hey, what's up, man? Is that dude going to get down with us? And I was like, no, he's not. And they're like, oh, okay. So you're going to make him leave? I'm like, no, I don't think I am. And they're like, what? You're getting soft. And I was like, no, I ain't getting soft. Just the dude's a Christian. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, one of them. I was like, I don't know, man. I like the kid. Let's leave him alone. They're like, you're tripping. We're going to go up there, beat him up, and tell him to leave. And I said, okay. And it comes out of my mouth before I can even think. I said, whoever goes up there to beat him up, I'm coming in next, and me and you are going to fight. And then after I said it, and I was like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, what are you, stupid? So they're like, man, you're tripping. Anyway, this kid ends up being one of my best friends still to this day. And every single day, this kid would come up to me talking all this good stuff, and then he wants to put a devotion in my hand. Hey, read this. And I was like, dude, I've been to church my whole life. I know the Bible better than most preachers, man. I ain't. You see what church did for me, right? Read this devotion. And that, every single time it would be about something I'm thinking about or whatever. So I'm trying to read the devotion without my homeboys seeing me because they're little bitty daily breads. And I'd read it and I'd give it back to him. And then he'd give me this big old Bible about this big. And he's like, here, read this verse right here. You can't hide that. So I'd take the Bible and I'd read that verse. And it never failed, man. You already know. I'd hold that Bible and I'd try to read that verse. And as soon as I'd read it, like all the homeboys would come out of their cells and see me. And they're like, oh, let me find out, Cole, you're going to be one of them. Let me find out you're going to be one of them Christians. Let me find out you're going to church. If you're scared, go to church. That's a prison saying. If you're scared, go to church. So now I'm holding the Bible, cussing them out, coming back to the Bible, reading it, and I'm like, man, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. So then he gets in the Bible. So then he stays on me. He's like, hey, why don't you come to church one time? I was like, no, man, I've been to church my whole life. I'm really sick of church stuff, church people. It just ain't my thing. It doesn't do nothing for me. He's like, come on, man, come to church one time. So finally, he makes this deal. He says, if you'll come to church one time, I'll never ask you again. Yeah. Sucker. Yeah, he didn't tell me he asked God to set all that crap up, but so we go to church, and he's telling me he's going to take me to this group where they share, right? And I'm like, share? He's like, yeah, all these guys sit in a group, and you tell about your feelings, and you tell them what God's done for you and all that. I'm like, oh, great, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Hope you don't have suicide pills down there. I'll take 3. So we go down there to this church, and he tells them, like, hey, this is Jason. He's not really into all this. He just came as a favor to me, so we're not going to make him uncomfortable and ask him a bunch of questions. He's just going to sit here and listen. So I'm sitting there listening, and I'm trying to be as tough as I can be for being in the prison, and I'm with all these Christian sissy men. And they're just going to go in this group and share their hearts, right? So the guy, my buddy, starts off, and he shares some good stuff, right? And I'm trying not to let it mess with me. And then the next guy goes, and I'm sitting there trying to convince myself that nobody knows what I've been through. Nobody knows my pain. Nobody knows me. They don't know me and what I go through. You got your little stuff, but I've been through some stuff. Man, by the time they made it around that circle, each one of these guys together told my story. My specific story, just in segments, and they didn't know it. Man, by the time they got to me, I was a hot mess, man. I was snotting and sneezing all over the place, crying. Like, first time I'm crying in prison in like 5 years, man. I'm a hot mess. And I can't clean it up fast enough. I'm still trying to keep my prison stiffness on, and it just ain't working, man. I'm falling apart. So they invite me to go to this ministry called Kairos. And I told them I'd go. So I get accepted at Kairos, and it's a beautiful prison ministry. I don't have time to get into that right now, but it's a beautiful 4-day prison ministry where free world people like you guys go into the unit with us for 4 days. The men do. Like 40 or 50 men come in and sit with us for 4 days. the women are on the outside making all this really cool free world food, sending in this awesome food. It's bait. They tell you, you're coming. Well, like, we know you come for the food. We don't care why you come. We just want you to come because there's going to be 10 talks about Jesus those 4 days. So man, we're eating all this food, and it's crazy. And then they do this deal on Saturday. Like, I heard the talks were great, the topics I've heard in church most of my life, but it was just cool. I couldn't figure out why these men would even want to come in. Why did you leave your wife and kids? And you could be on the beach, you could be fishing and all that. You came in to sit in a prison that was my big deal. Like, the talks are great, but why did you leave freedom to come sit with me in prison for 4 days? I could not get past that. So Saturday they did this deal called agape, this God love ceremony. And all the volunteers leave you to go sing all these sappy songs in the chapel. And they leave you men by yourself with this, they call it an agape bag, and it's full of letters. They tell your family that you're going through this 4-day journey. They tell friends on the unit. They tell all kinds of people. Well, then there's this group of ladies on the outside cooking that you never meet, and these kids that are out there that you never meet that are praying for you the whole 4 days. And they've written some letters too. And so I pull out the very first one, and it was made on construction paper so I could tell that it was a kid. Little bitty card, blue construction paper, and it said, inside this card is a handful of love. Now, I'm in prison for 2 murder cases, and I'm holding a piece of construction. I've been in an environment full of hate, full of violence, full of blood, guts. I've seen some terrible, terrible stuff. And I'm sitting here holding a piece of construction paper that says, inside this card is a handful of love. And I open it up, and there's a handprint about this big that's traced. And it said, Courtney, 9 years old, I'm praying for you. And broke me down like I have never been broke down before. I'm like, are you kidding me? This 9-year-old girl is out there praying for this dude in prison with 2 murder cases. And I never made it to the next letter. We had 45 minutes to go through our bag. And I sat there and I cried my whole 45 minutes looking at this piece of construction paper. God used a 9-year-old kid I've never met to this day to break me in half. And whatever God did in that moment changed my life all the way to this very, very day. And that night I stood up at the altar call and I said, I don't know what's going on, but I'm fixing to flip this unit upside down. It just come out of my mouth. I didn't even know how I was going to do it. I'm like, I'm going to save the whole unit. And man, we started on a mission, man, and God went to giving us visions and all kinds of crazy stuff. We started the first faith-based dorm on that unit back in 2007, I think. We started a faith-based unit there. Now there's 4 faith-based dorms on that unit now. It used to be called Terrible Torres. It was one of the 3 worst prisons in Texas, Terrible T, Terrible Torres. The day I get there is a bloodbath, if that makes you feel any better. Yeah, and here's your new unit. What's all the ambulances for? Huge racial riot had just happened. Like 50 people are all stabbed up, getting shipped off the unit. My first day there. Like, oh boy. You're wanting to write a letter home like, hey, I may not come home. So they called it Terrible T or Terrible Torres. You know what that unit's called now? You can go online and look it up. When you pull it up online, it says Torres Unit, God's Boot Camp. Is that just because of me? No. There's a bunch of guys in there getting saved like crazy, crazy, crazy. I start preaching on that unit. I start teaching on that unit. God does amazing things. There's so many guys trying to go to church there that we have to turn them away. We can only fit so many. God's doing so much cool stuff there. Free will people like this just raised $2.1 million to build a chapel at this prison. $2.1 million prison church. $2.1 million prison church, so nobody ever gets turned away ever again. So anyway, I could tell you a million stories, but I want to wrap some stuff up. What time is it? What time y'all get out of here, 12? I just want to see what you said because I was going to take what you said and add like 3 hours to it just to see if y'all stay here. I really don't care what time y'all leave. I'm staying till I'm done. No, I'm just kidding. I like to be politically correct and all that garbage. Just kidding. All right, look. If you get out of prison, if you stay out of trouble in about 18 months, you can go back to prisons to minister as a volunteer. To go back to the unit that you were locked up at and did time on, the only guy I saw that got to go back had to wait 10 years. I had no desire to do prison ministry before the day that I came home. So my wife wrote me the last 8 years that I was locked up, came to see me, visited me, ministered to me. She's coming down to pick me up the day that I'm coming home. And I still had no intention on coming back doing full-time like prison ministry until there's the door. There's freedom. I'm walking out that door, and the last thing a guard said to me said, "Hey, we'll save your bed for you." I kid you not, before I crossed the threshold of that door, I knew then. I said, if that's the last message you're going to give a guy leaving prison, then somebody's got to come back with a different message. Save your bed? Save my bed for me? No. You'll see me again, but it'll be in free world clothes. You can give that bed to somebody else. So I made up my mind then I was going to do it. I just didn't know how. And so I got to do some other prison ministry stuff with some other people. It was cool, but it just, I don't know, wasn't fit. If you've ever done ministry, you know when it's your thing, when it's your groove. Just wasn't my groove what I was doing. I was hooking up with some big names too. It just didn't move me. So I get invited. The Kairos ministry that God used to save me in prison, they're doing a 4-day, they're doing a weekend a year ago, September. And the very last day, the very last thing that happens is they have a 4th-day speaker. And that's somebody that's in prison, went through a Kairos before. They come and give like a 30-minute talk. I get a phone call saying, "Hey, we know you're out now, but would you consider being the 4th-day speaker at this Kairos event?" Which is crazy cool for a lot of reasons. I'd only been home for like 4 years. I still know so many guys that are locked up there. When I walk in the door, I know they're going to go nuts. And I'm going to go nuts getting to see these guys. But then just to be a part of the ministry that God used to reach me, like, wow, yeah, I'll do that no matter what it takes. I won't miss that for the world. Got a brand new warden on the unit, so I was like, okay, here we go. So I go show up, and the people before me, I walk in the door, the place goes nuts because it's a bunch of guys that I did time with. They're like, oh, nobody knows I'm there to speak. They kept it a surprise. So the whole time I'm sitting there waiting to speak, the guys are coming like, dude, I wish they'd let you preach, man. It ain't been the same since you've been gone. We like the way you preach. We want you to preach. I'm like, all right, maybe one day, you know. So I'm trying to hold the secret in there, and they're like doing all this stuff. So finally they ended up calling, we're down to like 3 minutes. We got 3 minutes before the whole service is over with. The guys before me just went way too long, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just drove 6 hours to get 3 minutes. Oh well, God can use it. So then they come up there like, Jason, how much time do you need? I'm like, dude, you know I never know how much time I want to go. I might go 10 minutes, I might go 45. I mean, you just never know. And so my buddy finds out then that I'm speaking. He's like, you're speaking? I was like, I'm supposed to, but I got 3 minutes. He's like, so he jumps up and he tells the dude, he's like, this dude drove 6 hours. You're going to give him 3 minutes? We've been waiting 4 years to hear this guy come back. Let him talk. So I was like, okay. So they turn me loose, let me talk, man. God shows up, just awesome. The warden comes up to me afterwards. He's like, man, that might be one of the best messages I've ever heard. Do you want to come back in here? I was like, I'd love to come back in here. And he's like, okay. He said, I'm going to put you on the master list. You can show up any day you want to, 7 days a week. It doesn't matter if we have service going on or not. Matter of fact, if you show up and we're not having church, we'll start church. That's what the warden said, just like that. If we're not having church, we'll start church. I was like, okay. He's like, do you have any ideas? I was like, I do, but they're kind of illegal. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, every unit's got a good side and a bad side. The bad side, y'all call them medium custody. They're locked up 23 hours a day. In that hour, they shower, they eat, and they get a little bit of sunshine. And they're locked up 23 hours a day with a cellie. Those guys are all your gang members, your leaders, your speakers, your people of influence. Locking them up 23 hours a day does not help your unit whatsoever, because that one unit that he's out, all he does is takes this little bitty note that's folded up nice and neat, and he passes it off to somebody in the chow hall. And then when the good side of the unit comes through, that kitchen worker gives that to the good side of the unit, and whoever they wanted smashed, stabbed, beat up, killed, whatever, it still happens. That 1 hour that you gave him out, because you got to feed the kid, that 1 hour you gave him, he does as much damage if he was out for 24 hours. So you're not helping the problem. He goes, okay, what's your suggestion? These guys only get to travel 10 at a time wherever they go. 10 to chow, 10 to wreck, because if you get more than that, you're having a riot and stabbings and all kinds of stuff. So he's like, what's your plan? And I said, you got all these privileges for all the good side of the unit. He said, nothing for these knuckleheads, but these knuckleheads are all your potential. I said, if we ever go after them and we reach them, they'll change the unit for you. Because when these dudes get it, these guys are going to have to get it by proxy, because these are all your tough guys. It sounds crazy, but it's legit. Yeah, you let all the gang members get saved, and then all the non-gang members are like, oh, wow, them gangsters are Christian now. If I don't go to church, are they going to stab me? You know, like what? So he's like, I like your plan. How many do you want, though? And I said, all of them. Give me all. He goes, you want all of them in one room at one time? I said, any of them that'll come, I want all of them. He's like, well, how many guards are you going to need? And I was like for real? Like there's like 650 to 800 of these dudes. Like you only keep 40 guys on staff. If you gave me all 40, what are you going to do if 800 dudes want to get me? And like, I mean, that made me feel good that you want to protect me, but in reality, you're 40 and they're 6, 7, 800, you're not going to stop nothing. So give me one. Y'all count, and then get out of the way. It's like, you're sure? It's like, I'll do whatever. I'll sign a waiver. I'll do whatever I need to do. But yeah, I know God's put that in my heart. Let's do it. So we did a test run December. Next month will be a year ago. We did a test run. I said, I want all of them for 4 hours. Give me 4 hours. He's like, you ain't going to be able to keep their attention for 4 hours. I said, give me 4 hours. I'm going to bring in a crew with me. We're going to praise our guts out. We're going to worship our guts out. We're going to do some plays. We're going to do some comedy. And I'm going to preach and give them everything I got. He's like, okay. And if it doesn't work, I said, if it doesn't work, we'll come up with another plan. If it works, let's run this thing. He said, okay. So we take a crew of, I don't even remember how many guys went out. I think we ended up having close to 20 or 25 volunteers probably that day. You remember Leroy? Something like that. 22. Leroy came in with me. We had like 20-something volunteers, like 9 of us were ex-offenders on that unit. The warden was really cool how he approved all that. So we just started it off, just off the bat. Hey, let me get in there. I'm going to open it up and I'll close. I don't care how we do it in the middle. So I just pretty much told him, I was like, hey, here's the deal. How about for the next 4 hours we pretend like we're not in prison? How about in the next 4 hours we pretend like we're at a men's conference in the free world? How about in the next 4 hours I told you that I could give you some tools to get out there and make it instead of being 75% of the guys that come back? I said, better yet, how many of you guys have children? Boom, now you got all these hands because most of these dudes are all dads. You hit them, you got to get them in their heart. So I told him, I said, here's the statistic whether you like it or not. No matter what you teach them, no matter what you show them. If you're a man in prison and you have a son in the free world, that son has an 80% chance of going to prison just because you're an example of being in prison. I said, so how about in the next 4 hours if I told you I was going to give you some tools to give you to go give to your kids to keep them from coming to prison. And if you're not into that, then I'll just preach to them in 10 or 15 years. And then it was just like that, what y'all just did. For the next 4 hours, just respect anybody that's going to be up here speaking or teaching or singing, man, because we came, because we love you, right? We take off on them boys. We give them everything we got. And I had already had a pep talk with everybody in ministry. If you're on the worship team and you want to sing halfway, I'll sit you down. You want to do a devotion, you want to give them half your heart, I'll sit you down. You don't come up with guys like this and you give them half of nothing. You give them everything. She can tell you. I'm serious when I do ministry in prison. You give them everything you got or you go sit down somewhere. And boom, God moves. I don't even know how many people we had that day. What was that first day? It was packed. It was full in there, man. We had 400 people in there, something like that. So the very first day we got all these people in there plus the volunteers. We do the altar call and like 8 people didn't get out of their chair. We got everybody else on us, like on us. So we got 25 volunteers and all these, and it was so cool because I've been to prison so it doesn't freak me out. But then I had some volunteers in there for the first time. I'm kind of watching them like how they're doing with 6 or 8. Poor Leroy's about this tall. She's got about 4 giants about this tall around her, and she was cool. But then we had some guys that were in there scared to death. It was their first time in prison ministry, and they got all these huge, these guys, some of these are big old boys. But it was the most beautiful thing because these big old gangsters, man, are just bawling and crying for God to do something with me. Do something with me. Do something with me, man. I don't want to be a waste. So it was a beautiful, beautiful day. So the warden's like, man, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. What are we going to do? So we start this program in January where we go down there the first weekend of every month. And we start off with a discipleship program, a mentorship program, a leadership program. He gives me 3 hours that Saturday with all those guys in medium custody that want to come. I've got guys in the faith-based dorm that are mentors to these guys that are in medium custody. And as they work their way out of medium custody, they come to the good side, then we plug them into leadership. And then we stay the night, and then we do both the services on Sunday. We've had probably roughly 600 to 800 guys getting saved and left gangs since last December at the unit. So, and that's rough. It could be more than that because in prison, not all your guys are going to come up. Some guys are going to get it and change, and you can watch them cry in their chair. They'll never come to that front. But it's obviously what happens, and the change still happens in that place. So now it's kind of weird, because it used to be weird to be on that unit and not be a gang member. Now it's becoming to where it's kind of weird that you're still gangbanging and you're not going to church, which is really cool. When we first presented that idea, most people thought we were crazy. I'm like, no, it's not crazy, man. That's a God deal. God can do that. He can flip the culture of a prison like that. I said it might take us about 2 years. It took like 6 months. God did it in like 6 months. And now when we go in that place, they almost run you over to shake your hands or hug your neck or, man, give me some more. What else can you teach me? When I walk, what is that saying that they do in prison? They got this saying, it's called shoot the gas. Well, where it came from is if there's a riot in a dorm, they come up to the door and they literally shoot gas. And it gets everybody out of the way and just messes everybody up, and they're crying and snotting or whatever. Well, whenever I preach, I do it real hardcore to the prison. I don't cut them no slack, because I want them to get it. And I don't want them to be a statistic. I don't want them to come back to prison. I want them to get out and be good husbands and fathers and church members and all that, reach their community and all that. So I preach to them hard, so whenever I show up, they're like, man, look out, Jason, you going to shoot the gas today when you preach? That's what I was asking, if I want to shoot the gas. I'm like, yeah, they've come to respect that somebody's going to get in their face and be honest with them, man. So all this cool stuff, man, has happened since I've come home. I mean, I couldn't even tell you the thousands and thousands of story of just God moment after God moment, and doing these youth rallies and just amazing things that God has done. But I just want to share one of the 1,000 things that I wanted to share with you. It comes from, I think it's in Matthew chapter 14. Y'all know the story where Jesus is walking on the water? He showed me something about that passage about a year ago, and I'm going to share this with you, then I'll wrap this up. But if you'll go look at Matthew chapter 14, right before he walks on water, there's a couple events that happen right before there. And one of them is John the Baptist has just passed away. He just died. And Jesus is trying to get away and go up the mountain to pray, is what the Bible says, right? So as he's trying to get away to pray, the multitude sees him. They're not going to give him a chance to mourn. They're going to follow him. So they start following Jesus where he's at. The disciples come, they follow him as well. And the disciples are like, man, we've got all these people here. It's getting late at night. What do you want to do with these people? We don't have enough money to feed these people. Let's send them home. And Jesus is like, no, let's don't send them home. Come on up here and let's invite them to eat. We don't have anything. We don't have the money to go buy food. What we have, and all we got is this young kid right here. He's got 5 fish and 2 loaves of bread. And Jesus says, jack that fool. You got to break it down in the Greek, but that's what he says. That take his lunch. So Jesus jacks his kid for his 5 fish and 2 loaves of bread, and Jesus holds it up and he blesses his food. God bless his food. And it's just a really cool lesson right there, because again, God creates math, right? He knows that 5 fish and 2 loaves of bread is not fixing to feed 5,000 men plus their family. He knows that when he blesses it. But the lesson in all that is until you are grateful for what you know is not enough, God can't put you in a place where he can bless you with what is more than enough. Jesus knew that wasn't enough. He knows this is not enough for 5,000 people. And he blessed it anyway. He knew it wasn't enough. But he wanted God to bless it, and God did that. So they're going to feed these 5,000. Y'all know the story. They pass it out. They pick up 12 baskets full of stuff. Something happens. I got to cheat just a little bit. At the beginning, whenever he does a bunch of cool stuff, they call him a magician. They call him a trickster. Then he does the Sermon on the Mount, which is one of the best sermons that was ever preached. And at the end of that, the people told Jesus, like, man, you're a good teacher. And then we get to this deal, and he feeds these 5,000 people plus their family. And at the end of that scripture, you'll see he's a prophet. So far, the people have called him a magician, a trickster, a teacher, and a prophet. And as soon as they use the word prophet, the Bible says this, if you read all 3 accounts of the New Testament when Jesus is walking on the water. As soon as they called him a prophet, Jesus, it says that immediately, they say the word prophet, immediately Jesus tells his disciples, get in that boat and cross that sea, and I'm going to meet you on the other side. That word immediately, if you read all 3 translations, you start finding out, not all 3 translations, all 3 places that it's in the gospel, you'll find out real quick that a lesson is fixing to be learned. You've called me a magician, you called me a trickster, you called me a prophet, you have no idea who I am, and you've been walking with me for 2 or 3 years now. Get in the boat and meet me on the other side. Immediately, get in that boat and meet me on the other side. It should have been a 20-minute trip. Jesus goes away at evening time to pray. So we're going to say it's around 6 o'clock. Jesus goes up on the mountain to pray. The Bible says that later on, the disciples, that should have been a 20-minute trip, now they're out in the middle of the sea. They're being tossed to and fro. All these storms are coming up. They think they're going to die. And just to paint the picture a little bit better for you, if you're a Jew, any water that was over your head, you consider to be the abyss. So if it's over your head, you think that's the abyss, and you think it's the bottomless pit, is what Jewish folklore taught them. So while they're hovering around this water, they're being tossed to and fro. They think they're going to die. What's worse than dying? Worse than dying is if we die here and we go in the water, we're dying and going to hell. So let that paint a picture. It ain't just being scared of drowning. Jewish folklore, even though it wasn't right, taught them that was the abyss. If we die right here, we're going to hell. So now they're rowing for their life. They didn't have a trolling motor. Didn't have the big engine on the back. These boys got paddles. And they went out there, and Jesus went up there at evening time, so 6 o'clock. And then the Bible says that Jesus was watching them from the mountain and did not come to them until the fourth watch, which is 3 to 6 o'clock in the morning. Now imagine rowing for your life for 9 hours. If it's me and you in the boat, we're going to make it about 20 minutes and then it's over. We're just going to die. I got about 20 minutes of rowing in me, maybe. 9 hours. Minimum. We're talking 9 to 12, really. I'm going to pick the lesser. For 9 hours, you think you're going to die. 9 hours. I'm going to die, and if I die here, I'm going to go to hell. And I'm rowing for my life. And Jesus is watching. Doesn't that paint a picture of a loving God? For 9 hours, I think I'm fixing to die. And I'm fixing to find out a little bit. Jesus has been watching me, almost dying for 9 hours. 9 hours. If it wasn't God, I'd have hit him with the pedal. 9 hours rowing for my life. And then the Bible says Jesus comes walking on the water. Jesus, who they've walked with for 2 or 3 years. Jesus, who they've seen do all these miracles. Jesus, who they just saw feed 5,000 people plus all their family. Jesus walks up, and what does the disciples say? It's a ghost. They're screaming and crying and praying for God to save them. And God shows up. God shows up walking on water. God shows up walking on water, and they say, it's a ghost. What does that tell you? People can pray for God to come help and save them all day long. But when he shows up in the form of something that you don't expect, you don't acknowledge that it's God. So sometimes God can show up in the form of a guy that had 2 murder cases and did 11 years in prison. Sometimes God can show up in a 9-year-old that just does construction cards for guys in prison. But if you're only looking for the God that you have a mind frame of what he should be like and what he should show up like, when God really shows up, you're going to miss him. It's a ghost. No, it's me. The Bible says it is I. You break that down in the Greek, he says it's I am. So if you're a Jew, what would have rung in your ears? All the stories you heard about Moses showing up. God, you're going to send me to Pharaoh? You want me to deliver all the Egyptians? Who am I going to tell them that sent me? And God says, you tell them that I am sent you. When Jesus comes walking around the water, it's a ghost, and he says, it is I. He's really saying, I am. Those Jews in the boat heard, I am has sent you. I am just showed up. God showed up is what they just heard. God showed up. And Peter says, if it's really you, then call me to walk on the water. He goes, come here. Don't test me. Come here. And we always beat Peter up because he made it a few steps and then he sank because he got distracted with the winds and the boisterous winds and waves and all that good stuff. But what gets me is how come the other 11 never even tried? Never even tried. Make fun of him all you want to. At least he tried. He got his feet wet. This dude is one of the only people in history that can still say that he walked on water. Even though it was 2 or 3 steps. And you other 11, forever the testimony is going to be shared that y'all didn't have the faith to even try. After you watch Jesus heal people and feed 5,000 people and 3,000 people and heal the sick and make eyes grow where there were no eyes and tell paralyzed people to get up out of bed and walk, and people that hadn't walked their whole life. You saw all that stuff, and now your brother Peter walks on water and you won't even try. You didn't even put your foot in the water. At least Peter tried. The winds and the waves go away. Jesus takes them to the other side, that 20-minute trip that turned into a 9-hour trip. And they get to the other side, and for the first time in the New Testament, two things happen if you go back and read it. The first thing that happened is the disciples. This blows me away. For the first time, after all the cool stuff that God did, for the first time, the disciples fall down and worship Him. Go back and read all the cool stuff Jesus did for 14 chapters. And for the first time, the disciples who walked with Him every day fell down and they worshiped Him at His feet. And then the second cool thing is the first time they finally realized who He was. And it's Peter, and he says, Jesus, truly, you are the Son of God. You're a magician, you're a trickster, you're a teacher, you're a prophet. Get in the boat and meet me on the other side so I can show you who I am. So let me pose this question before I close. If it took the disciples all that, and all that time, 9 hours of rowing for their life, thinking they're fixing to die, not just die, but go to hell for eternity, 9 hours. Can you imagine 5 minutes of thinking you're fixing to die? I had about 30 seconds with a gun in my face. 30 seconds of a gun in my face felt like eternity. Can you imagine 9 hours every second thinking you're fixing to die? You're fixing to die and go to hell. 9 hours, that's your only thought. And at the end of it all, God used that to show you who He really was. The question is, was that 9 hours worth it to the disciples? Was it worth it going through 9 hours of thinking you're going to die just to come out and find out that Jesus really is the true Son of God? Was that worth it for them? Yeah. So what is your 9 hours? My 9 hours was my 11 years in prison. Do I hate what happened? Absolutely, to this day, hate what happened. Would I take it all back? No. You take away prison and you take away what happened, then you take away this chance right here to be speaking to you guys. And everything else God has done. I could keep you here for days telling you what God has done in the 5 years that I've been home. Amazing, cool God stuff. Was my 9 hours worth it? Because in my 9 hours, I found out that Jesus was the one true Son of God. Was my 9 hours worth it? Yes, every time. What's your 9 hours? What's yours? Jason, you don't understand. I've been beat up. I've been molested. I've been hurt. I've been raped. I did my time in prison too. I can't tell you all the stories that I've heard from people. And Satan uses their story to hold them back. And the whole time, God is like, you know how many lives we could change with that story right there? Because I was there with you the whole time. Satan's convinced you that I wasn't there, and that's why it all happened. And God's telling you I was there the whole time, and we're going to change the world with that story if you'll give me an opportunity to. What's your 9 hours? Because at the end of your life, the end of your 9 hours, if you finally realize that Jesus really is the one true Son of God, then whatever you've been through in your life is not only worth it, but God's going to use it to change other people. If you go through your whole life in your 9 hours and you don't come to the conclusion that Jesus is the one true Son of God, then what a waste. What a waste. Y'all stand with me and pray.